Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real today. When a man can go days without talking to you, you don't panic, you don't start chasing, you don't send paragraphs trying to get attention. No, you do the opposite. You let him feel the silence he created, because a man only comes forward when he feels the space you gave him turning into distance. A man values what he fears losing. This truth isn't just about relationships, it's about human nature. When something feels guaranteed, when we believe it will always be there no matter how we behave, we naturally give it less attention. But when we sense that something precious could slip away, suddenly our focus becomes sharp, our effort increases, and our heart starts paying attention. This is why a woman must understand her own worth before she expects a man to understand it. You cannot convince a man to value you if you don't show him that you value yourself. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, a man realizes he can't play with your time or emotions. He starts understanding that love with you is not promised, it has to be earned, protected, and respected. See, when a man first comes into your life, he sees your beauty, your energy, your kindness, and he wants it. But as time goes on, if he sees you accepting bare minimum, answering every message instantly, forgiving every broken promise, he may start to take you for granted. Not because he's cruel, but because you're teaching him that your love is easy, that he won't lose it, even if he doesn't show up like he should. The moment he knows you will never leave, the effort starts fading, the calls get shorter, the messages become less meaningful, and suddenly he is out living life like your heart isn't on the line. But watch what happens when you step back, when you don't chase, when you say, I deserve more than silence. That shift makes him uncomfortable because now the balance has changed. Now he has to work again. A man values a woman who stands strong in her identity. Someone who isn't afraid to walk away when she's not being appreciated. Someone who doesn't collapse at the fear of being alone because she knows her value doesn't come from a man, it comes from within. When a man sees that, he realizes he can't be lazy with her. He becomes careful with his words, more attentive with communication, more intentional with affection. He becomes afraid, not scared of the woman, but afraid of losing the peace, love, and support she brings into his life. That fear is healthy because it keeps him awake, aware, and accountable. Ladies, you have to understand men don't love to lose. They don't like losing a game, losing money, losing respect, and definitely not losing a woman who brings meaning to their life. When a man sees that another man could step in and appreciate what he ignored, it wakes him up fast. Suddenly, he's texting more, calling more, planning dates, showing interest. Not because you begged, but because he felt the possibility of loss. Sometimes the best thing you can do isn't to fight for him, it's to show him that you don't need him to survive. That kind of strength is what turns a woman from an option into a priority in a man's life. Communication shows priority, silence shows comfort. When someone truly cares, they stay connected. They check in, they ask how you are, they make time for you even when life gets busy. But when a man goes silent for days and feels no urgency to reach out, it reveals exactly how comfortable he has become with the idea of you sticking around no matter what. He's not worried about losing you. He doesn't feel like that silence is a risk. And that is the danger, because love without effort becomes habit, and habit without fear becomes neglect. You deserve a connection where your presence matters every single day, not just when he feels like remembering you. People make time for what they want. It's simple. A man who truly values you will not let a day go by wondering if you're drifting away. He will not give space for doubt, insecurity, or questions to grow in your heart. When he's invested, he communicates with energy, he initiates, he doesn't leave you guessing. But if he believes you'll stay no matter how little he gives, communication becomes optional for him. And optional communication leads to optional commitment. What you accept becomes what you're given. The more you excuse his silence, the more silent he becomes. It's a cycle. He disappears. You wait, he returns. You welcome him again like nothing happened. Slowly, your heart starts shrinking while his ego grows bigger because he feels in control. But the day you don't wait, the day you stop giving him the comfort of knowing you're always there, that's the day he starts feeling uncomfortable. And that discomfort is exactly what makes him reach out. Your power is not in chasing him, it's in letting him feel your absence. A man thinks twice when he notices you're no longer responding instantly, when your world doesn't pause for him anymore. He starts checking his phone more often, wondering why you haven't spoken. He begins to realize that silence is not a game he can always win. When you choose yourself, when you prioritize your peace, he suddenly wakes up to the truth that you will not always be available. Communication is the heartbeat of a relationship. When it flatlines, the relationship begins to die. But here's the key. You don't revive it alone. A woman should not be the only heartbeat in the relationship, pumping energy and effort into something that he treats casually. It takes two people reaching for each other, wanting each other, showing up for each other. If he's not choosing that effort, you stepping back doesn't ruin the relationship. It reveals where it really stood. So let him feel the silence he created. Let him realize that you're not his convenience or his comfort zone. The right man will never let too much distance come between your hearts. The right man will always choose communication because he knows one thing clearly. Silence is the first step toward losing you, and he's not willing to take that risk. Your reaction to distance determines your power. When a man pulls away, many women panic. They feel like they must act fast to save the relationship. Send more texts, reassure him, fix what isn't broken. But what they don't realize is that this response teaches him something. He can leave whenever he wants, disappear without explanation, and you'll be right there waiting, holding the connection together all by yourself. The moment you chase after someone who is walking away from you, you hand them the power to decide the fate of your heart. But when you hold still with confidence, when you stay calm and collected, that is when your power shines. A man will test boundaries without even knowing he's doing it. If his distance causes you to crumble or lose self-control, he learns that your emotions are his to disrupt. But if you stay steady, if you keep living, keep shining, keep choosing your joy, he understands that you are not dependent on his presence to function. That realization creates respect. Respect leads to effort. Effort leads to consistency. Silence is not always disrespect. Sometimes it's confusion, distraction, or immaturity. But even then, your response matters because how you react teaches him how to treat you in the future. If every time he disappears, you reward him with love, attention, and instant forgiveness, then silence becomes part of the relationship routine. He learns he can disconnect without consequence. But when he comes back and finds a woman who hasn't been sitting around waiting, a woman who continued loving her life, he suddenly becomes aware that his spot in your world is not permanent. Your reaction shapes the direction of the relationship. If you respond with anxiety or desperation, it pushes him further away because desperation is never attractive. Men are drawn to confidence, not arrogance, but the kind of quiet power that says, I'm good either way. That energy makes him want to close the gap he created. He starts thinking more. He starts caring more. He starts valuing the connection again because he sees you're not clinging to it. When a man pulls back, the best thing you can do is match the energy with grace. Not attitude, not anger, just self-respect. Focus on your goals, your friendships, your happiness. Engage in the life that exists outside of him. When he sees you aren't begging for crumbs of attention, he will either step up and give the whole loaf or fade away completely, and either outcome benefits you. Because a man who doesn't return effort doesn't deserve a place in your heart. Power in love isn't about control, it's about balance. When both people care, distance is uncomfortable for both. But when only one person cares, distance exposes the truth. So if he steps back, don't run after him. Hold your ground, because the woman who stands strong during silence is the woman a man never wants to lose. Self-respect is more attractive than chasing. When you choose to respect yourself, it sends a message louder than any text you could ever send to a man who's gone distant. A woman who knows her worth doesn't beg for affection or attention. She understands that love should be mutual, not one-sided. When a man realizes you are not willing to sacrifice your dignity for his inconsistency, he sees a level of strength that demands his respect. And the truth is, respect lasts longer than physical attraction. Respect is what makes a man stay when lust fades and life gets hard. The moment you choose to chase someone who isn't choosing you back, you begin to lose a piece of yourself. You start doubting your value, questioning your beauty, and shrinking your personality just to hold on to someone who isn't giving you the same effort. But when you pause, take a breath, and say to yourself, I deserve better than this silence, you reclaim your power. That is self-respect. That is confidence without loudness. That is the quiet reminder to the world that your heart is not up for discount. Men notice confidence They notice a woman who isn't shaken by temporary distance. They notice when their absence doesn't break her. And something very interesting happens. The less you chase, the more curious he becomes. He starts wondering why you're not running behind him like before. He starts checking if someone else is giving you the attention he took for granted. He starts feeling the shift in energy, and that shift pulls him back toward you. Not because of manipulation, but because attraction naturally returns when respect is present. Self-respect is not coldness, it's clarity. It's knowing the difference between a man who needs a little space to think and a man who's trying to vanish from responsibility. It's giving someone the room to come toward you without dragging them there. It's trusting that if he truly values you, he'll show up. And if he doesn't show up, then silence becomes your answer. You stop asking, stop reminding, stop chasing, because love shouldn't feel like a constant fight to prove you're worthy. The world teaches women to be patient, to hold on, to be the one who fixes everything. But a strong woman understands that patience doesn't mean tolerating neglect. Love doesn't mean losing yourself in someone else's indecision. Chase your dreams, chase your peace, chase the best version of yourself, but never chase a man who refuses to meet you halfway. When you carry yourself with respect, you don't need to demand anything. Your presence commands it. A man will either rise to the level of the woman you are, or he will fall out of your life. And either way, you win, because the woman who knows her worth doesn't fear losing a man, she fears losing herself. And once a man sees that strength in you, that independence wrapped in grace, he understands that losing you would be the biggest mistake of his life. When you stop over giving, he starts reaching. A relationship should never feel like a one-person effort. But sometimes, without realizing it, women give too much love, too much time, too much reassurance, too much loyalty, hoping that one day he will give the same in return. The problem is, the more you overgive, the more he gets used to the idea that you will always be there, always trying, always picking up the weight he refuses to carry. And when giving becomes unequal, appreciation slowly disappears. What once made him feel lucky now becomes his expectation. What once was effort for him becomes convenience. But the moment you stop pouring from your heart into someone who isn't pouring back, that's the moment he feels the emptiness his silence created. Men notice effort, especially when it's gone, when you stop checking on him first, stop planning every conversation, stop being his emotional home. While he gives nothing back, he becomes aware of what he's been receiving without earning. Suddenly, he starts wondering what changed. He starts missing the attention he used to take for granted, because now the silence he once thought was harmless feels like distance, and distance feels like risk. When he sees you shift your focus back to yourself, doing things that make you happy, spending time with people who uplift you, building your dreams, he realizes that your love was not a guarantee, it was a privilege. And privileges can be lost. He starts thinking about who might be noticing you now, appreciating the qualities he ignored. He starts imagining someone else receiving the time and affection he used to own without effort. That thought alone can snap a man back into reality. Pulling back isn't manipulation, it's balance. It's giving him the opportunity to show his intentions. Because love isn't shown by words, it's shown by effort. If he wants to stay in your life, he has to work for it. And if he doesn't work for it, his place naturally fades. That's how you protect your heart, not by fighting for someone who won't fight for you, but by watching who chooses to step forward when you step away. Over-giving is often rooted in fear, fear of losing him, fear of being alone, fear that you won't find better. But when you choose yourself first, the fear slowly disappears. You realize that you were always the prize, you were always the blessing. And a prize never chases, it gets chosen. When a man starts reaching out, trying harder, putting in more effort than before, it's not because you forced him, it's because he finally saw the truth. You are not replaceable. So let him miss the version of you he took for granted. Let him feel the loss of the comfort you once gave freely. Let him work for a place in your life instead of assuming he owns it. Because when you stop over giving, you don't lose love. You make space for real love to show up. Leveling up your life creates magnetic pull. When a man pulls back, that is not your cue to pause your world or shrink your dreams. That is your moment to rise even higher. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who decides to improve herself instead of waiting for someone else to improve the situation. When you start focusing on your personal growth, your confidence, your goals, your happiness, you naturally become more attractive not only to him, but to everyone around you. Men are drawn to a woman who knows how to live without them, a woman whose life is full, vibrant, and meaningful with or without a relationship. Imagine this: while he's choosing silence, you're choosing progress. You're learning new skills, working on your health, showing up for your career, spending time with people who bring joy into your world. Instead of stalking his profile or waiting for the phone to ring, you're making moves that make your future brighter.